I want us to spare the next few minutes for us to be able to share as much as possible all the potential investment opportunities that Rwanda offers within the mining sector value chain systems. And thank you so much, Deputy CEO, for making this a panel and not a manual. And so I think I'm tempted to start with you. Just to continue on the tradition of ladies first. From a Rwanda Mining Board perspective, there's been a lot of reforms within the regulatory framework, and we had the CEO talk about the available support, the available commitment to support all those who want to invest in the available areas, for example, value addition, that there's enough support in that area. I would like you to pick up from there and be able to now probably, tell us a bit more. How does regulation within the board and the need for support by those who want to invest in that sector, align from where you sit?
Thank you, Anangwe. It's true that the mining sector has been facing some changes, especially in formalization, digitalization. But regarding the regulations, I think on our side as a regulator, we need to be flexible because technology is advancing. Why I'm saying that is that, for instance, 10 years ago, lithium was not known, beryllium was not known, and it was not reflected in our regulations. So the sector is really technical, and you have to keep up with the technology that is coming every year. So that is a requirement to be flexible in our regulations and be able to accommodate all types of investors in our sector. For example, we have the big investors with foreign investment, big companies, large-scale companies, but we also have medium companies and small-scale companies for cooperatives, for local investors. And all those types of investors have to be accommodated in our regulations. And as we change the mining law, we are currently also reviewing the CO regulations, providing the details for each type of investor. Because after, as you know, RMB was set in 2017, and after 7 years, there is also a big changes that happened, and we need to also upgrade and keep accommodating and keep adjusting our regulations for that. For currently, I know there are some challenges, especially for the small-scale companies, because we need, as the community development, as our theme for this mining week, we need also to think about them and then have more technical support, because regulations are not enough. Our sector requires skillful people. You need to have good engineers, good geologists. I know many company MDs are here, and to get a good engineer to guide you and support you in the right standards for mining and get you to the right production, it's key. Of course, for the big investors, I'm not worried because they have the capacity building, the funds to be also involved in the capacity building of their staff. But for small companies, cooperatives, as a regulator, beside the regulations, we have to add also the technical support. Yeah. And also with the University of Rwanda. So I know I went a bit out of the context, but just to say that the regulations are not enough. Yeah. There is the technical support and the skills that really support us on the other side. That's why we have to have the University of Rwanda and IPRC, and I encourage our mining companies, especially medium cooperatives, to reach out to us for the technical challenges. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing from you is there are opportunities. Anyone who wants to set up any capacity building institution to support in the skilling aspect, yes, that's a very ripe opportunity, low-hanging fruit. I want to cross over and come to RDB and be able to understand from a perspective of the Rwanda Development Board, what measures are there to, let's say, in the immediate term, prepare the ground for potential investors in specific sectors like now we've said we need capacity building. what other things are available from RDB perspective in terms of the incentives for those who want to come and register their business within the mining ecosystem, mining value chain system?
I think I'll take that.
Yeah,
It's RDB.
yeah.
Thanks, Eugene. So from an RDB perspective, well, for those who don't know, the mandate for the Rwanda Development Board is private sector growth, and the mining sector is one of those crucial sectors that we look to develop. Now, to go specifically to your question, there's facilitation that we're offering in terms of the one-stop center, but we have specific help we give for the mining sector. That's broken up into there's fiscal and non-fiscal. For the non-fiscal, we offer, especially for foreign companies, we help you get the visas you might need. If you're investing about 250,000, you automatically get up to 3 visas for your staff. We encourage local capacity building, as my colleague mentioned here. We also help you with, we give you what is a key account manager. So the facilitation is not just, this is the law, look at it. We have someone who will be with you, kind of follow up with you, help open doors and give you that direction. That's more on the non-fiscal side. On the fiscal side, if you're to export over 50% of your produce, you fall in a different tax category in terms of the corporate income tax. So the corporate income tax is 28%. If you're to export 50% of what you produce, you go to a different category, which is about 15%. You can carry forward your losses up to 10 years, right? Understanding for some of the bigger miners, that's a huge incentive, right? It allows you to take advantage of the bigger investments you might have, not have a tax burden, especially in the earlier years. And also for the machinery side, there's different levies that are reduced for your equipment that we help on. So those are the two, but all around, I think the support is not just tied to the fiscal and non-fiscal, but we have the one-stop center to help you with the facilitation, the discussion, but also that direction as you go open doors and start up. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, this is, for lack of a better word, cash cow. If we also don't feed this cow, we don't get enough out of it. I'll come back to probe what you just said in a little while, but I want to bring in the Private Sector Federation on this, because we've had, the regulator says, we are actually ready, we are open, we want you to come, tell us where the challenges are, we'll do the advocacy, we'll support you. The investment body or the body in charge of creating a proper investment climate is saying, look, we've provided incentives. What is it that you feel from a private sector investment perspective is still missing, that you'd like to see more in terms of creating a better environment for private investors within the mining sector ecosystem to come and say, we want to put our money over here?
Thank you. On the private sector perspective, I think what is missing mostly, as it comes to mining and requiring mostly, it's the issue of access to finance. Because when you look into how the product from the banking sector is structured, in fact, it's very difficult for the mining and acquiring companies to access the finances. Because you find there is a request for collaterals, there is a request for other requirements, which are very difficult for the mining company to get. Let's say if I have a quarry or also a mining concession, you cannot say how much is down there. So it becomes very difficult to provide that quarry or that mining concession as a collateral. So the specific part you can look into providing is access to finance for the industries who are into mining sector. And also, if we look into, there have been mentioned that we need to look into adding value, because for most of the extractive sector, you find we needed to add a value. Because we extract and then we export without adding any value, you find we are losing something. Let's say if we take like coltan, when we export it as low as it is, you are missing other products such as niobium and tantalo, which are part of the coltan. But when you export it, when you process, you get also those raw materials to export. So the issue, the other one have been mentioned, the one is access to skills and also the access to technology. So that's also the other aspect in which we need more support on that.
Yeah, interesting, powerful points. And so I'm just going to talk to Fred here, because Fred, you actually are the Director General of Industry Promotion and Entrepreneurship Development at the Ministry of Commerce and Trade. And I want to understand, what place does policy play in trying to fix some of these things we've just had from the previous speakers? One of them, the access to finance issue. Is there a way that policy can come and say, look, we need to allow a credit line or credit window for those investing in this sense, so that it becomes easier for them to say, we want to put up factories for value addition, but we don't have the, enough access to the monies that are needed to deliver this. What is the role of policy from where you sit in fixing this?
Thank you very much. So from this, I would like to first inform that the mining is part of the industrial sector, along the manufacturing, electricity, water, and construction altogether currently constitute about 22% of our total GDP. So we are seeing a trend moving up of that sector share to the GDP, which also we want to increase over the next 5 years and 10 years. As the moderator mentioned, we recently got our new policy, industrial policy for the next 10 years, our national industrial policy. Among the priority sectors, we have like 3 types of industries, like steel, glass manufacturing, and automotive industries that are very much interlinked to mining sector, because without iron ore, the success of steel industry would be questionable. But the good news that we now learned that the studies identified that in Rwanda we have large amounts of deposits of iron ore, which is very pivotal and instrumental in driving the steel industry, which is also a precedence for other metallurgy and other light industries that is associated to iron ore commodity. And also glass manufacturing. Glass manufacturing also is one of the industries that are sought after over our next 10 years, in which also we found out that we have enough raw materials and also automotive industries. So many speakers here mentioned about the 3 Ts. The 3 Ts globally are the backbone of automotive industry and electronic industries. So the challenges that have been mentioned, like access to finance and others, by attracting the investments in the sector, like foreign direct investors and other local industries that are able to come and contribute to the sector. But also, we are increasingly engaging the financial sector to know where there is potential for financial support, like mining, so that they will always in a dialogue to see where they want investments, like the interest rates and other key factors in access to finance. So all of this will be the topics for discussions to see as per the monetary policy and fiscal policy and other interventions, to see where possible to facilitate further investment into this mining sector. In addition to that, we also encourage more about exploration, because there are so many other types of minerals which we think can be further explored to see the level of the volume, the quantity that Rwanda might have, in order to be a key factor to attract these high-end investors in electronics, in EV. Like recently, Rwanda really testified that we have huge amounts of lithium, which is very, very key for automotive industry. That is a big off-taker for the automotive industry, that also has other multiplier effect to the industrial sector in general. So adding again, mining has been at the backbone of industrial sector in many countries. You know, all the countries to uplift their industrial sector, they need raw materials, and the raw materials mainly come from either mining, agriculture, and these petrochemical industries that are also in one or another way come from mining. And also we see how these at the end contribute to the larger industrial development in the country. So I think with these efforts that are being put together from various state and the private sector, we'll be able to see our mining sector growing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll come back to delve a bit more on that access to finance. It's a cross-cutting challenge everywhere. It's one of the biggest challenges that any enterprise usually faces. I want to cross over to Deputy CEO, Rwanda Mines Petroleum Gas Board, and I want to talk about the contrast that is in Rwanda. We know in other countries or other jurisdictions or some places, people always feel as if regulation is meant to hurt business. I would like you to make a case for regulations in the case of Rwanda. I know I've had a chance to also speak to some investors in this area, and we had also the speeches over here, and it seems that the environment from a regulatory perspective is meant for good. It's supposed to serve for good. But I'd like you to take a moment and just share with us, just in case there's someone who feels these regulations might be hurting us from an investment perspective, what is the true picture from where you sit?
Well, thank you. On the regulation part, mining being a very sensitive sector because it has a direct impact on people's health first, environment degradation, and also on the community. So I agree that our regulations, especially the new law, is a bit strict on that because as our Prime Minister said, there is no point mining and then after you spend a lot of budget rehabilitating the areas. So there are some key areas where we are really strict, where the regulations do not offer some room for flexibility, especially when it is linked to the standards, especially the SOPs, the health and safety standards, on the tunnels standards, because an accident can be fatal anytime. Yeah. And we've been recording some incidents, and we have to be strict on that. Yeah. Also on the environment, and I believe they are going to talk about it in the next panel, yes. On the environment degradation, with how the country envision the environment, we have also as a mining sector to comply. Yeah. But on the other side, being on the mining sector, there is also a part we always forget. The environment, I know our mining people are going to agree. The environment, the energy transition, all those initiatives are actually the ones creating the demand in mining. Yeah. Because lithium is needed for the batteries, tantalum is needed for electronics, everything, beryllium, same. So we have to understand that it has to go together, mining and greening the sector. It has to be together because as you push for the energy transition, you are also pushing for mining because that's where the raw material is. So our regulations has to be aligned with the environment regulations. It has to be reflected in the same, and we work closely with REMA on that. They can do inspection anytime and hold a mining company without our knowledge, and we agree with it because it's about environment, especially near sensitive catchments, parks, rivers, and lakes. Yeah. So on that, the regulation has to be very strict. But on the other side, we are joining my colleague from RDB, the incentives, the fiscal regimes, and that's where we can be flexible. Yeah. But regarding the health of people, community, environment, you have to have that balance. Yeah. Yes.
There's no shortcut.
Yes.
There's no shortcut. I want to open the floor. Feel free if you have a comment, question you'd like to share on on what we've been discussing. Feel free to raise your hand up. There are microphones which will come to you. If you want to use any language, English, Kinyarwanda, please feel free. And if you want to follow the conversation, you can also wear the headsets for any language that you're comfortable in. So if you have any question, you raise your hand. I see a hand at the back. Just take like 2 questions, 3, and then we come back to wrap up. Could you please stand up? Thank you.
Midway.
I'm happy to be here, and it's a pleasure
listening to the speakers, from the Prime Minister to the CEO, and what have you. I'm called Egai Kennedy Candida. I'm coming from the Kingdom of Norway. I'm a petroleum engineer, offshore, drilling, 20 years experience, Schlumberger. For those who are in the oil industry, the biggest oil company in the world. I happen to come here because I have a Rwandan girlfriend, and yesterday I went to your RODB office. I was invited to be here. So I'm so fascinated that as an African, I see the amount of development in Rwanda, and most of the speakers I've seen here are in their youthful generation. Very interesting, something I never expected to see. So I really appreciate the government of this country for giving the youth the opportunity to showcase what they can offer to their country as compared to many other African countries.
Yeah.
That notwithstanding, I would like to say that I have quite a lot of experience in the petroleum industry that I'm available to share with the Rwandan government. Like I said, I've been offshore in continental Europe and the Middle East. And there are a lot of questions there, especially the last lady who spoke regarding policies. Before she spoke, I was just talking with this gentleman here, sitting by me here. We were just talking before she even came up. And I was saying that when the investors, especially the Western investors, when they come to our continent, Africa, there are a lot of environmental hazards that they get away with it. Why do I say so? I say so because working in the oil industry in Europe, the environment or the HSE is one of the primordial factors for any investor. However, unfortunately, when some of those investors come here, they don't give us the attention we need. Whether because we are begging for them to come and invest here, I don't know. But if you look at the HSE, be it the personnel HSE part or the environmental part in the Western world, it is a primordial or a prerequisite for your company to function. We drill in the deep ocean where they don't more talk about human safety because that is already done. They now talk about aquatic life, aquatic safety, the life of the fish. That's the level where the Europeans are. So I'm just begging that any foreign investor who is investing in Rwanda, please do Rwanda a favor, do Africa a favor to do the following things. One, ensure corporate social responsibility, irrespective of the taxes you pay to the Rwandan government, so that the locals in that area where you are doing the mining should see the direct benefit of why those mines are there. Two, make sure you do your best as investor to offer the workers the motivation and incentives, starting from their safety to their pay package home, please. And that notwithstanding, make sure that there's what we call in-service training to the workers so that they should be able to have that continuity in your absence. And to conclude it, if the Rwandan government is interested, they can contact me. I will get my hand into the University of Rwanda and design a program for the university that can get, in the next 5 years, get the students coming out from the university and ready for the industry.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are lacking in Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was an opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure we have representatives of the University of Rwanda in the room. Please have some moment with that great gentleman. He has very great ideas in there. I want us to limit our questions or comments to investment. If you had the money and you want to invest in Rwanda's mining sector ecosystem, what would make you invest or not invest? What would you want done to make it easier for you to put your money right here in this particular industry here? I would love to hear any other question. If there's any comment on that note, you can put your hand up and we'll have a microphone coming to you before I come back to the panel. Yeah, there's a lady over here.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Before I go into my question, I would like to clarify something. My name is Nyambo. I work for Minex as a purchase supervisor, but also I supervise the supply chain. In mining sector, when you say mining, we tend to generalize it, and yet that's not how it should be. Mining is classified in Rwanda as there's a part of trading, there's a part of extraction and service providing, there is a refinery, and there is also manufacturing. So my question is, when we are talking in general lack of financing, which part are we addressing to? You have to be more specific because all those parts have different type of risks. Also, I would like to ask RMB, this is my second time attending Rwanda Mining Week, and the lack of finance, this is something that has been raised over and over. What have you done so far? And my second question, I will address to RDB. What's your contribution when it comes to financing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well put. Thank you so much. I will come back to the panel now to be able to respond to some of the feedback we've had on the floor. I'll start off with RDB. What is your contribution? I think we can pick up from that one on this issue of access to finance. It's coming back again, and we would like to understand what is the contribution of RDB in sorting this out. Yes, go ahead.
Thanks, Eugene. Thanks for the question. I think, so as my colleague from PSF put it, I think there's maybe a structural problem here. And from the RDB perspective, we can help facilitate and offer the incentives, but when it comes to de-risking is where we can maybe have a conversation on what type of agreement you'd want to get into, where are the pain points for the banks, and what can we help with. But I think all of this is a balancing act with what is in the regulation, what is available from a policy side. So we are part of it. We'd like to be part of the discussion, but I don't know if we have a straight answer as far as a solution. But you know, we're all ears to hear what part, especially from a facilitation perspective, that RDB can help.
Yeah, but from where you sit, if you were to look at it, you know, from the outside looking inward, what would be the easy ways that RDB can do? You know, I know we have a one-stop center. What happens there in the kind of support whenever there's need or there's that flagging of that challenge of access to finance? What sort of response do you give an investor who's coming in and feels that they would need some funding or financing in that area? Are your hands tied? Do you feel there's something you can do? And I think this is the body of that question in that sense.
Yeah, so from the RDB part, what we can mainly do is put you in front of the right people who might be able to help you with that. So if it is a regulation issue, if it's a policy question that might need tweaking, we're open to hearing that and putting it in front of the right people. So RDB can call for who might be needed for that part. If it is a conversation where there's a bit of mediation needed from the investor/government side, I think RDB plays a crucial role there. We can come in and listen to both sides and say, okay, you know, we understand the issue here.
Yeah.
What is the middle ground that makes sense for both sides?
Yeah.
Have all the right parties on the table, and then look to push that through internal government approvals to say, all right, this is how we facilitated you, and give you a solution that will help you unlock that.
Right. Deputy CEO, I mean, you can also chip in on this because there's a question
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Yes. And maybe I can also answer some of a few questions,
Yes.
especially the first one. It's true that the mining sector has different, I can call it branches. Like we have exploration companies, we have mining companies, trading companies, refineries, and also we have associated businesses such as manufacturing, engineering works, construction, so it's a broad sector. But for specifically the issues with financing is mostly in exploration and mining, and I'm talking about the medium and small scale companies, to get, even the trading companies, by the way, because as we know, it's not a secret, most of the investment is foreign, it's not local. So first, the issue is linked with our banking system that does not understand the mining sector. It's what PSF even mentioned, where you don't know, they are asking you for a collateral that is not equivalent to the loan you want.
Yeah.
And in most of the banks, we don't have mining analysts. We only have agriculture analysts, energy analysts, for the people who need to assess the feasibility studies, but they don't have the mining people in their staff. That is a challenge for a company to go ask for the loan because no one will understand the feasibility study. It's too technical. So we need also, that's where now RDB has to come in to help us engage the banking system to allow the loans for our companies. But on our side also as mining companies, we need to have bank accounts, make the transaction on the banks, to have that safety and security and identity with the bank. They will know you, and they will know the kind of transaction you have. So it's a combined effort on both sides.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else wants to chip in on the questions?
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. As the Deputy CEO mentioned, you find our banking sector, the way it is structured, you find that most of the product they have look into general trading, you look into others, because when you look into the employees, you find that they have people want to finance and banking. But when it comes to technicality of a specific sector, let's say like mining, let's take like manufacturing, it becomes very difficult to understand the project. So when it comes to exploration, to extraction, so you find to get someone who understands what that sector, so they can give you a loan, it becomes more challenging.
Yeah, but I'm keen to understand, and this I'm now going to bring it to policy aspect. How do you ensure that next mining week, when we come, we are not talking about access to finance being the challenge that it is today? And I want to understand, maybe from where you sit, if this is what the players are saying, that look, financial institutions don't understand us, they don't understand our language, so they're not serving us because they don't get it. So how can policy speak to that? Can we have a policy that says, within every financial institution, the following persons must be, embedded within the credit facility departments or stuff like that? Are these things that are possible to be done, or we are just dreaming and they might not happen in our lifetime?
Okay, thank you very much. We are talking now about mining sector, having the issues of access to finance, so which is another sector, financial sector. They are the stakeholders, actually, they are good partners. Every mining company, they have bank accounts. Almost you can have like a company having bank accounts in all available commercial banks. We also have the central bank that regulates the financial sector, that regulates about the interest, reserves, and all the things that will, in one or another way, help all the players in the financial sector, while also controlling the inflation. I see this as ongoing engagements. So now the government, as a policy, we are increasingly advocate for cross collaboration from public to private sector to know the challenges. As also we have a development bank that can get interest to fund some of the untapped investment opportunities in the mining sector. I think it will be a very good occasion to approach BRD, Development Bank of Rwanda, that might get interest into funding the mining sector, because mining sector, it is a growing rapidly. I think as 2023, it was the first time they reached export of $1.1 billion. So it was a big milestone, and also coupled with other discoveries we are getting, lithium, iron ore, and industries coming into the sector. I think it will be a very good marketing to the banks to start looking into this sector and fund wherever or possible.
Yeah. Is there anyone from the financial institution in the room? Anyone working in a financial institution representing? I know it's not the right time to raise your hand. and I understand. So I want to take the last round of feedback, and especially touching on what we had on the floor here on the issue of value addition in terms of the opportunities in there. And I'll start with you, Deputy CEO. What would you want to see happen? What sort of commitments are you giving from a regulator perspective in supporting this clarion call we all are having, that we need to add value? Let's not export raw materials and then bring back in exorbitant prices. What commitment are you making at this 7th edition of the Rwanda Mining Week 2024 that we will increase our value addition locally before taking anything outside?
Okay. Thank you, Anangwe. Value addition is a complex area, and people have to understand that our minerals do not come like tantalum alone. It's always mixed with something. And that is the positive side with value addition, because now you get the side, what the others call the waste, you can make something out of it.
Yeah.
For instance, if you have amblygonite, you know there is a lot of phosphate inside, and you can make fertilizers out of that.
Yeah.
So value addition do not concern only mining. Actually, we have to work closely with the Ministry of Trade, because it's linked. For instance, if I take an example, at a mine site, after you mine and you process, you can get good construction materials. Good first part for ceramics. It's a partnership, and that's where value addition is key, because you get every mineral out of the mine and you make something good out of it.
Yeah.
And for of course, for the tantalum, we have the refinery. For the tin, we also have the smelter. We have the gold, also the gold refinery. But I don't want it to be limited to those 3 T's.
Yeah.
We can still have good value addition manufacturing industries. For ceramics, we are encouraging, because we have a lot of waste in the mine site, and we are looking at how can we combine the waste from the mine and be a raw material for construction.
Yeah.
The waste for the mine can be a good raw material for phosphate in agriculture.
Yeah.
So there are many stakeholders involved, and they have to be on board, and it is also linked to the chemical industry.
Yeah.
And that's when also the Ministry of Trade it comes in. There is no value addition if you don't have chemicals, if you don't have acids, if you don't have ammonia. So that is an investment opportunity, but linked also to value addition.
Right.
So the challenge, maybe they are not yet back here. I wanted to ask some of the people. I don't know if GGR is here, or tin, the smelter, or the tantalum. I think they're still there at the exhibition. I know that the challenge they have to even achieve the goal, even the capacity of the refineries and smelters, is that most of the raw material is still getting exported as raw. Because it's also linked to the financing, because financing comes from abroad. And it is quite a challenge to keep it here for value addition.
Yeah.
And that's where the commitment comes in, that at least what we are producing here can feed our refineries and smelters, and also encourage the associated businesses such as chemical industry to be ready to supply the right consumables to facilitate the value addition.
Right, and you're committing that you will give your all as RMB to support this.
Yes.
Dennis, what's the commitment from Rwanda Development Board perspective, and in terms of this call to have value addition so as to reduce exporting raw materials? What's in there for investors that you're supporting or committing to give them?
So some of it is come under what you touched on in terms of incentives that are there, right, for exports. But maybe to push this back to the point that we raised about access to finance, I think here we might have an opportunity to have a discussion on if it is not the current banking system that understands it, who understands it, so that we need to attract here. And I think from the RDP perspective, we're open to having that conversation. We have incentives tied around headquarters where you pay a preferential, actually pay 0% CIT if you set up your headquarters here. It's an incentive we can offer to them. But if it is a specific agency that understands mining, that offers financing, that is open to coming here, that you say, look, these people can help unlock, RDB can be your ally in helping attract those. Some of those that would help attract are the Fund for Export Development, headquarters here, African Medicines Agency, also headquarters here. So we can have those conversations with you where it's not just you going to them, talking to them directly and saying, look, why don't you come and set up here? At least have an office here, whether it's through RDB or the Kigali International Finance Center, set up here because it looks like there's a ready market for you.
Right. Alphonse, if we come back here next time for the Rwanda Mining Week and private sector members are still complaining about access to finance, should they say you failed them as an advocacy organization, institution? What are you committing that akakano nikagaruki nitukuzongere kukumva? What commitments are you making from the PSF perspective on this?
On private sector perspective on the issue of access to finance, I think the private sector, mostly what we can do is to advocate, because banking institutions, they have the way they do their things, so we need to advocate for that, because we've been currently discussing with BRD to see how they can have a specialized scheme that target those sectors which are priority for the country. Because sectors in which you find that commercial banks are reluctant or afraid to invest into. So as the development bank, so they should also target those kind of sectors. So what we can commit is to continue the advocacy, to talk with all relevant partners and also the government to see how they can come a scheme which is preferential and also targeting the mining sector and the other related sectors. When we talk on that, because also there's an opportunity, with the internal combustion engine, they are being discouraged. So there's also available investment into the EVs. So the production of the EVs, they require mining material that are used to provide that. There is a lithium, there is a tungsten, there is a tin. So all those products are mined here, but also we need to add the value as it was being mentioning. So that's also an opportunity that the banking sector sees. There's an opportunity to invest into the mining and linked sectors.
Yeah. Okay. How would you quantify the advocacy level now, out of percentage? Which percentage do you feel the advocacy is happening?
On the percentage, I think currently, because the banking sector understanding, I think can say we are active.
No, I'm talking about your role as PSF. If you were to gauge the level of advocacy you're playing or putting, it would be out of how many question?
We can say that we are at least, let's say, like 50%.
50%.
Because we can say that we succeed when the product is on the market.
So from today, tuizamure ho gatoya ijere kuri 70%. Maybe we'll have some difference.
We try to. We continue advocating.
Thank you, Fred. You have the last word. What can we do so that when we come back here next time, we are not discussing about this challenge of access to finance, but we're discussing how there was more volumes of investment within the mining sector and the entire ecosystem?
Okay, that's a very good question. I commend what is being done already in terms of exploration, identifying new types of minerals here in Rwanda, and also the regulatory framework, which is paving the way for conducive business environment for foreign direct investors. Now the world is becoming like a village. We don't limit ourselves to the current situation, to the current players. Rwanda is open for the entire world, not only Africa, so that we can see high-end investors from far away, from global market coming here, invest here in Rwanda, getting the finances from already developed financial sectors countries, and come here to Rwanda to take advantage of new opportunities that we have been discussing here, And at the end, we solve the issue of access to finance, we add value, and we also increase exports. Because we have seen in the speech of the Right Honorable Prime Minister that we want to almost double the export revenue from mining sector and also the entire sector, getting the export doubled.
Yeah. So what's your commitment as a ministry?
Commitment as the government is to continue reviewing our regulations to support investors. We will continue again to give incentives to the people who come into the sector. For example, we know that the mining sector requires a lot of equipments that are used in mining. Most of them are imported from other countries. We will continue to give you incentives, tax incentives in all forms of exemptions, and also the preferential industrial electricity tariff. We know that mining sector consumes a lot of energy, so we will continue to advocate for the better tariff for mining sector, especially for those that are in industrial value addition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like asking that question because this is on record.
Yes.
And the mining people should be clapping right now because of the tariff.
Yeah.
I know it's a challenge, the energy access, it's a challenge for our companies.
Right.
This is a commitment, and it is based on our existing regulations.
Wonderful.
And we will continue to have them to support our mining sector.
Interesting. Can we give a round of applause to the panelists for giving us a very good insight? I want to say thank you so much for being great, and I'll release you for now, Murakoze Chan.